I think the point of life is like to have fun and laugh and love.
Yeah.
And kiss.
Mostly kiss.
Yeah.
We live in a complex and ever-changing world, a place that is maybe harder than ever to successfully navigate. The answer is surely to be brave, but it's also to seek and be open to guidance. Mentors are the one consistent through line in the lives of all accomplished people, myself included. So welcome to Mentor Buffet, a feast for those, like me, curious about who helped the most successful among us succeed. Cat Cohen is a comedian, actress, and writer.
I'm a comedian, actor, writer, musician, singer, poet, girl, woman, person.
We acted in a movie together last year called The French Italian, which premiered at Tribeca. She's the modern woman and the modern artist at the same time.
But that being said, I want to be in a period piece and I want a dramatic role, and I'm available.
She's going to do her thing, and she's thrilled to have you do yours. Her debut album, Overdressed, just came out.
I've been doing these stand-up and these cabaret songs for a while, but I wanted to do pop versions of those songs.
Go listen wherever you listen.
I think it's so good. I can't wait for people to hear it.
Here's my conversation with Cat Cohen.
So I moved to New York the day after I graduated, and I was in this sketch comedy class, and someone was like, you should do voiceover. You have a good voice for voiceover. And this girl was like, I have a voiceover teacher. You should meet her. Her name's Marla Curbin. And I Google Marla Curbin, go to her website. It's like a very outdated website. I just call the phone number and schedule a meeting with her. I show up. Her studio's in her apartment in the West Village. She lived underneath Daniel Day-Lewis in the West Village, this fabulous little apartment. I went. We did this voiceover lesson. We instantly connected. She really helped me get my career in voiceover going, which was amazing because it was the way that I was eventually able to quit my day job and pursue comedy and stuff full time. And then we became friendly doing that. And then it just became she was my New York grandma, and I would go lay at the foot of her bed and we would talk about boys and work and life and everything.
What was her name?
Marla.
Marla, right. Okay.
Yeah.
How would you talk to Marla about boys at the foot of her bed?
Truly like a friend. I'd be like, this is his Instagram. This is what he does. This is his vibe. This is what he said to me. This is what the sex is like. Brrr. And she loved it. I mean, it was so fun.
Do you think that her life wisdom was as important or more important than her voice wisdom?
Oh, way more important. The voice thing was such a small part of our story. That's just how we met.
I love
And then we stopped working together as student teacher and just became friends pretty quickly.
What's the most memorable thing Marla ever told you?
Send them a gift. Always send a gift. Beyond that, it was kind of she always would stress that I needed to take care of myself. She's like, if you keep going at this pace and don't have some sort of practice to ground yourself, you're going to go crazy, which I still haven't quite figured out. And then beyond that, the advice was always just love, she's just you're a star, be patient, everything's coming your way, all those good messages.
So you're in this class and someone says that you could do voiceover, which is flattering because it means
Yeah, I'm okay, that's the best thing I've ever heard in my life. Her whole thing was I'm going to be honest with you up front. If I think you have a future in this, I'll work with you. And if not, I'm not going to take your money and waste your time. And so I think pretty quickly it felt very natural to me and it came really easily. And she was like, you're great at this. And it kind of made it happen quickly. I feel like most good things, when they're good, they just sort of
they start very quickly.
Yeah. And then when something continually is it's okay, maybe I should try something else because this is you go through the doors that say yes to you.
Does it open a gate for you of I can believe in myself in this thing that I've never even thought about?
It's interesting because at the time, I mentioned I'd heard about this in a sketch comedy class, and that was something that I was this is not coming easily. I'm not enjoying this. I don't feel like this is the path for me. So I feel like your body also knows when something's wrong, and you're okay, whatever. So
can you always feel when something's wrong?
I think so. Can you?
No. I think sometimes I think I probably can, but I think because I'm an athlete, a lot of athletics is
pushing through.
It's pushing through and having a belief in something, but you don't. Yeah, I guess you have a feeling. I guess you have a feeling of potential, but you don't usually feel magic in the room until you put in a lot of time. right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I'm interested in this experience for you, because it seems like you had feelings in the present that were like, this feels right.
Mm-hmm.
And with the voiceover stuff, it was like, this is right. And this person is like validating that for me. I don't think I've always had that. I think I've always had hope before I've had the feeling of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I guess I don't always know when something's wrong. I'm thinking back, like, I can be so trusting of people who are actually like terrible and I can't tell.
Me
So I'm trying to
too.
get better about that. Yeah, because you're so open hearted and kind. And people take advantage of that because people are monsters. Not all of them, but some are.
How do you make those
Because they're
decisions?
hurt. And so they hurt you.
Yeah, they're hurt. Wait, but how do you make decisions about that now, about people?
I don't know. I guess I found ways to like be friendly with people without like opening up my entire heart and soul,
And then seeing.
which can be hard for me sometimes because my impulse is to be like, bah.
Yeah, you're really kind when you meet you, and you're really open.
You too.
Yeah.
That's why it was so fun
Being in a
to be
movie together. I just remember when your back was hurting, and I was like, I know I can help this person.
Wow, I forgot. Oh my God, it was because I fell in the movie.
Oh yeah, and you were like, your
Yeah.
back was hurting so bad, and I was like, if I could just crack her back.
You did.
I know, but I was nervous to ask you.
Are you kidding?
Because
Well, that's my vibe is like, oh my God, that's the best thing anyone could ask me.
and then I like cracked your
Oh,
back
it was
on
so.
set.
I remember you being like, I've never heard it so deep. You're like, it's like a
Yes.
tomb has been like shaken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many years did you work with Marla?
Okay, let me think. We probably met in like, oh my God, I remember because actually I made my voiceover demo right before my like 1-year college reunion. So we met in 2014
Mm-hmm.
and then she passed away in 2021. So
And you worked with her through that whole time as a
no,
coach?
it became, no, it was like, it started as work and then became just like family.
And what was like, tell me about like your life during this time that you're working with her, and you're like, you are not just a voiceover actress this whole time, right? You are writing.
It was always something to do on the side. It's like a way of making money while I get to do other things. Wanting to, act and do stand up and all that stuff. So that all came into play with this. And I still do voiceover, so it's always like something in the background. But the industry's changed.
And how is your time with her different than the time you were spending with other people?
At that point in my life, I was like always with 22-year-olds. So to be with someone who was at that point like in her late 60s, it's just like such a different energy. And just someone who's so settled and like has lived so much, has so many great stories and experiences. And, it's just the vibe is so, it was incredibly grounding and calming to be around her.
Did she share her stories with you?
Of course.
What were her stories?
Well, it's funny because this whole thing I'm thinking about making the switch from like just meeting her to becoming like you're my mentor or you're like family to me. It's almost like when you're like feeling out like from friends to romance or something, like, is there more? Or like, can I be real? Or like, can I open myself up to you? And so that's the process too. I'm like, is this other person like enjoying this time as much as I am? Like, are we both benefiting from this like connection in some way? And I feel like, because I was kind of shy at first, like, am I overstaying my welcome? Or, am I like asking her for too much? But she was just always so generous with me and amazing. Her advice almost always was like, just, it's fine, calm down.
About everything you shared with her?
Yeah, like just, especially when you're, now, obviously I'm the same way, but especially when you're 23, you're like, everything feels like disaster and so scary.
And she listened to you and then would just calm you down.
Yeah. Amazing.
I feel like so few people have that in someone outside of their friends and outside of like their parents or siblings at that time, especially in like the industry you're in, right?
Well,
like,
because especially my parents know nothing about the industry, and my friends in the industry, although they can commiserate with you, they're often also competitive with you, and there's weird tension, and neither of you can be calm because you're both like freaking out about the same thing.
That's something about you that I notice is like you seem to be really supportive of people who are like right next to you, like on stage.
I try.
And you are like it's palpable.
Oh, that's nice.
And I'm wondering like where that came from, because not everyone is like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's like I love being part of a group and like part of a team, and I love like being on set. Like that's my fave. Like doing stand up and touring is so fun, but it gets so lonely. Whereas like being on set, waking up every day, getting there, chatting. It like really pulls me out of my like more depressive or anxious tendencies. It's so fun. I'm definitely like an extrovert.
I think I'm an introvert, but I like set, so maybe I'm an extrovert. I
I
like
don't
this.
know.
I like the purpose. I like having a purpose with a
I
team.
know.
I like love it.
Oh, it's so rare. So many days I wake up and I'm like, what the hell am I doing right now?
It's the best. Well, and that you are where you're meant to be. And I feel like, right?
100%. Oh,
Well, and when you're even talking about someone calming like your anxiety, it's basically saying whatever you're feeling outside of here or whatever. Cause like what was your anxiousness?
probably the same ones I have now. Like I'm not doing enough. I'm not as far along as I want to be. Am I dying? I'm constantly having like hypochondriac freakouts. Um, at the time I was like dating too. Does he like me? Like all the classic anxieties, all the classic hits.
I feel like you don't wish those away either though. You're like, I feel like you opt into life in this like
Oh my god.
like you're that's what your comedy is like acknowledging where you are too.
Yeah.
But this I'm almost thinking about like how would you have gotten that calmness without this person? But it's not fair to be like this person was so important that without this person you wouldn't have
Oh,
had it.
interesting.
Um,
Yeah, I don't know. I do miss it. Like I feel like I'll have like huge waves of just being like, oh my god, I miss her so much. Like, oh, I'm going this dilemma. I wish I could bring it to her, or even like it's past a little bit now, but like anytime I'd walk by her in her the area of her street, I'd be like, oh, I should, and then you're like, oh, she's gone.
can you think like
Horrible.
her now though?
Yeah, I can like hear her voice in my head, or like I'll talk to like people who've passed. I'll be like,
How?
just like prayer, like just ask them things and just see what happens, or like send them love, or like
What happens?
I don't know. I think you just know what they would say, or try to know what they would say. But some I don't know. I've had dilemmas too where I'm just like, where I don't feel like I know what they'd say about this. Where I'm just like, fuck, I really wish I could ask someone. Like I have no idea what to do. But yeah, I love what you said about like being exactly where you're supposed to be. That's such a rare, amazing feeling.
Well, and it's the feeling of like if it's the feeling of like I don't have to fear the future, basically, right?
Oh,
Because isn't that like why you wouldn't be where you're why would you not be present,
yeah.
right? It's
Right.
because you're
Scared of what's next.
yeah, and you're trying to prevent it from being bad or make
Oh
sure
my
that it's good.
god.
Like that's the only reason why you wouldn't be present.
Oh.
And so, which is a bizarre, right? Okay, so I am so like I'm interested in this person, but I really am interested in your like peers as mentors.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have peers as mentors
I do have peers as mentors in the running world, but I don't have a lot of peers as mentors in
for
the art.
creative stuff?
Yeah, and I feel like that is a really I do, right? I have collaborators that are close to me,
Yeah.
but it's not a community, right? I have some peers. I don't have a whole community. And I think it's different than sport because it's a more subjective art form. And so
Yeah.
that camaraderie is it's like delicate and powerful.
I know. It's also like it ebbs and flows, and I think sometimes it also might look like one thing from the outside, but in reality it's not always like we're all best friends and we all lift each other up. Like it can be difficult to be like all trying to do the same thing and feeling especially like as a performer you're always feeling like it's me, it's me. It's like the worst feeling.
Can you tell me about it? Because I genuinely like don't have like I'm curious. Like if we weren't even on this show, I would want to ask you about this because as I feel like you're a person that I like trust and that that me asking you is like I'm genuinely curious because it's such a mystery to me.
Yeah, I think I was so lucky, like when I first did comedy in New York, to meet the most amazing people who I'm still like incredibly close with. We just don't, the thing that happens is we had this like amazing little group and we would do shows together and see each other like, multiple nights a week, all the time hanging out. And then what happens when people get successful, which is what everyone wants to happen, is that people are traveling all the time or they're busy or they're shooting something or they move to LA or like, so now it's like I'm still close to all those people, but we're all off doing our own things. So we can still support each other, but it's different than like It's like you're in college together and everyone graduates. It's sort of how it feels.
And when you first were together, what was the support like?
Oh my God, it was heaven on earth. It was just like, come do my night. I'm doing your night. I'm gonna produce this thing. Do you want to write a song for this thing? Oh, will you do a bit at my like event? Or like, oh, my, cousin's doing a web series and they need someone like you for this thing. Like just lots of yeah, it's like you're in school together, sort of.
They make you less afraid too, right? Because you're
Oh my
like,
God.
it's normal to be doing what you're doing.
I feel like meeting Mitra Johari and Patty Harrison, who I hosted this show called It's a Guy Thing with for a long time. Like, if they thought I was funny, I was like, okay, no one can touch me. Like, I'm a genius. So it's also about like trying out material and being like, oh my God, like that person's amazing and they think I'm good. Like, that's crazy.
That reminds me of this. I got this advice that you shouldn't care what everybody thinks of you, but you should care what like 5 people think of you.
Mm,
And it feels like that, where these people,
yeah,
where you're like, like you trusted them, right? And
yeah,
if it was like solid there, you could go out in the world and feel more infinite.
totally.
How much of comedy relies on your own confidence in yourself?
In my mind, I'm like, I don't know if what I'm doing is important or interesting, but I think it's really funny. So like, let's go up there and just see what happens. I try not to think like too big picture.
You're trying to please yourself.
First, yeah. Like if I think something's funny, then at this point I'm like, "Oh, I think this will go over well." Um, Instead of being like, "What do people want to hear about right now?"
You've always felt like what you had to say and what you felt like you've always believed in
Uh,
your taste.
no, I don't. My taste, yes, but not that what I have to say is important or anything. I still don't know if that's true.
I've basically thought about like, at least with the arts, with these things that are subjective, that it's like if it's a game, like if it's a sport, someone will like say you're not in a game anymore.
Mm,
Like someone will kick you out, but until you're kicked out, like you're in the game, so play. Like
yeah.
basically like you're there. If you're in there, then like you belong there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't question it as much because it feels like a waste of energy.
What's been so helpful for me in the past few years is talking to other artists who don't do exactly what I do. So like my best friend Amy Solomon is a producer, and so she gives me advice. She's like on the other side of things. So she sees things from a different perspective and it gives me like she brings me so much calm and peace just being like, "Oh, well that has nothing to do with you because that's this this this." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know it worked that way or whatever." And I think of my friend Haley Nauman, who's an amazing writer. She has this newsletter called Maybe Baby, and she writes like these beautiful essays. And she gives me so much advice about like just like the life of a working artist and like routine and how to fill one's
Mm.
days and how to have a life while being an artist and all those types of things. So that's really cool too.
Yeah, they're like giving you perspective on it all.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's easy to lose perspective if everybody in our orbit is doing exactly what we're doing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to have perspective. Like I always want the next thing. Instead of taking time to celebrate what I've accomplished, I'm like really hard on myself and I'm like, okay, who cares? Whatever. This next one needs to be bigger and better and more blah 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 blah.
And what's the problem with that? Like it sounds problematic, but like what's
I
bothersome?
think I'm really mean to myself and it makes me unhappy. I know in some ways I feel like I have all the same thoughts and anxieties as I did when I was like 11.
Yeah. But how has your relationship with them changed?
I don't know if it has.
So do you sit for coffee with them or what happens when they come?
No, I would say I like watch TikTok and dissociate.
Really?
I'm constantly like absorbing things so as not to be like stuck with my own thoughts,
Does it
which is
help?
tricky because I think to write new material or to be like creative, you actually have to sit with your thoughts and be really bored. That's what I need to start doing again. I haven't been writing at all, so I have to find a way to get back into it.
I like that. I mean, I'm just thinking about being bored and sitting
You
there.
have to be bored. That's the only way you'll create.
That's a really hard thing to tell people.
I think that's like the answer to everything. You cycle through all the anxieties, all the bad thoughts, all the good thoughts, all the whatever, and then you're left with like, okay, what do I care about? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you're left with what's left,
I
which is
think,
the stuff that's
yeah.
like either the most interesting or the most compelling or the most like it's loud underneath it all.
Like even on days where I'm like, I have to write, I know that I need the whole day because if I sit down for an hour, I'm not gonna
Yes.
like, nothing's gonna come.
I feel that as a writer too. But I
don't
was
know.
taught that. I was taught you need like 3 hours at least.
Mm,
And then I was like, oh, like that makes
really?
sense. Yeah.
What else were you taught? Because I need help.
I think you need like a playlist because I think we like to get into a play. You know, it's a practice, right? And so you have to remind yourself like I'm going into that space.
Do you know that I don't have a single thing I do every day? I don't have any routine or anything to ground me. Help!
Do you? Okay,
I have no willpower, so I don't trust or respect myself, so I don't listen to myself when I make rules.
if people are too bound in routine, then they're scared when they get out of the routine. So you think you can thrive no
say that
matter
again.
what.
If people are too bound.
Like if I were so reliant on one routine,
yeah.
then I would be outsourcing my power, which is a thing that I'm working on with my doctor.
Really outsourcing your power.
It's like the idea that you need something outside of yourself to access your strength. And so a
Classic.
routine is a good tool. But if I thought I needed to like drink my collagen latte.
Oh, it's kind of OCD vibes.
Yeah. It's thinking that you need something or you need this outfit in order to get the job or you need the job in order to be successful.
Well, that's the harder one to break.
Is that you need
you need to be successful in order to what?
In order to be happy, or you need a person in order to be successful, or you need these friends in order to get to where you need to be, or these associations. It's outsourcing your ability to do anything without something outside of yourself.
I have an amazing question for you because it's a Greek word someone messaged me about, akrasia, and I think it's like the impulse to stray from what you know is good for you to do. It's like the idea of like, I know I should do this thing, then why don't I do it?
Do you have those feelings?
Yeah, all the time. Like, oh, wow, I'll feel so much better if I work out. Oh, I'll feel so much better if I sit down for an hour and respond to these texts or write something or do something. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. I'm like, I'd rather like do something easy.
Right. I was going to ask if you don't like being uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, who does? You, maybe.
I don't mind it.
Because well, our brains are really different.
Yeah.
Well, some people literally get off on like being in sort of like
the hurt.
The
I'm
workout
not like that.
pain.
No, I'm not like that. I just don't like it doesn't it feels like
face. I'm like, you don't mind being uncomfortable?
No, not to a certain there's limits to it. I don't mind touching discomfort. I don't want to live in it.
Oh my God, I mind even hearing about it.
Why?
Because it's by definition unpleasant. And I want to feel joy and happy every second.
If you're enjoying Mentor Buffet, follow Voicing Change for more inspirational and truly life-affirming content from shows like Soul Boom, The Proof, Feel Better, Live More, and the Rich Roll podcast. Just go to voicingchange.media. That's voicingchange.media for a beautiful selection of productive and positive shows.